All right, Ray, my friend Brehm. First off, I appreciate you being here. We just spent over an hour and a half talking off camera, which I wish we'd have recorded. um, so we're actually here. We finally hit record because I've got to go eat dinner at some point, and I'm sure you've got stuff you got to do too. But as always, thank you for being here. It wouldn't feel like a summit without you here, so I appreciate it. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, if somebody here doesn't know you, hasn't seen you before, anything like that, if you just want to give a real brief background into who you are a little bit, and then what we're going to dive into is kind of trying to simplify tech for fiction authors. But let's let the people know who you are first.
Yeah, I'm when I was little, I used to have a not a lemonade stand, but I used to do puppet shows and in order to get people into selling milkshakes and went to as a COBOL programmer out of college. I've been through real estate. I've been an entrepreneur for over 25 years. I've been in tech sales, software sales back in the day. Got into publishing, I guess late 2015, mid 2015 and started just kind of followed the path and figured all the different twists and turns and slowly but surely figured out that for me there was more to it than what you get on Amazon and everything else, and got into virtual summits in early 2020. Pandemic hit, turned out to be a really helpful for people back then, and it still is, and that's why I'm on this summit. And then earlier 2023 founded Pub Funnels, which is our tech platform for authors, and and really got involved with that because of the need for tech to run summits and webinars and giveaways and swaps and bundles and stacks and all that stuff, and author websites, and be able to charge for your book funnels, all that kind of stuff. And I was finding it's just like all these different things juggling and trying to help people with. It's like, if I have my own software, it's going to make it a lot better. So that's where we are today.
Yeah, and for people who don't know, so like Ray has been an entrepreneur for 25 plus years. I'm not the same case. That means I would have started when I was 7. So I've actually not been in it that long because I'm only 32. But funny
I did
enough,
start when I was 7, so I'm
oh,
only
okay.
32.
Okay, yeah, I doubt it. That's a lie. um, but when I first kind of stepped into trying to do the entrepreneurial thing, I was an author first, so I write fast-paced military thrillers. So I kind of had that going in terms of like getting used to it at the whole writing and publishing thing. But I was like a lot of people stuck in a dead end 9 to 5 job. We're all, I'm sure, either relate to that or know somebody who can relate to that. And I came across you. It's been a few years now, and it was you and Paul Brody. I attended, I think, one of his summits that I think you guys were either co-hosting or you were running the tech for, and he was doing the interviewing. I can't remember exactly, but it was like right at the beginning of my authoring journey, which was like, so it was like I was new to virtual summits, I was new to authoring, so this was like the perfect combination. So I needed to learn these things that I didn't quite either understand yet or I didn't even know existed. So I came across this summit and it literally changed everything for me in a number of ways. First, I got to listen to all these experts and, you know, influencers is kind of a word that gets tossed around now, but people who have been doing it for a long time and they know the industry, especially for self-published authors. They know how to write, how to get your book properly edited, where to get a book cover, how to get your book on Amazon, how to sell it, how to like all these different things that I had no idea what to do. And then on the back end of that, because I was wanting to kind of step into the entrepreneurial side of things, I came across you and Paul, and you guys had this kind of like coaching for, done for you summits for virtual summits. At the time, I couldn't afford it. There's broke and then there was me. Okay. So I was afraid to sneeze because I couldn't go to the doctor. Like we were that bad off. So I couldn't afford what they had at the time. So I was like, I had a call with both of them. It was awesome. I was like, hey, I really want to do it. I just can't. For some reason, a year later, you ended up launching something where it was like a fraction of the cost, but instead of do it for you, it was kind of like do it with you. And I was like, I could do this. Like I have to take a chance on this. And then you fast forward to today. This is my third summit in under 2 years, but like literally, like you were the one that got me into it. So it's like cool because now you've interviewed me for your summits, and now I get to interview you for my summits. So it's kind of a cool story of how we kind of came to get to know each other, and I think we've developed a really good relationship. Um, over that time span and stuff like that. And we still talk even when summits aren't going on. But yeah, that's how we came across each other. So when me and Brian, my co-host, were talking about putting this summit together, I was like, doesn't really feel like a summit without Ray. And especially with our topic today, we're talking about tech. And you just founded and launched Pub Funnels. I am a user of Pub Funnels. I'm not sponsored by Pub Funnels, but I've used ClickFunnels, I've used Kartra, I've used all these different funnel softwares and stuff like that. And then when you launch Pub Funnels, I quickly migrated over, got all my stuff off of those platforms, shut those down, had pages built, had websites built inside Pub Funnels in literally like no time. So I know the power of it and stuff like that. But especially for fiction authors, and this is the direction we're going to take, I think tech can be scary and it can be overwhelming and it can be, when you need the help, you can't find it, or like anything like that can be just really crazy, overwhelming and stuff like that. So just kind of like your 10,000 foot view when it comes to tech for fiction authors specifically, um, especially when we're talking like pub funnels, like where does something like that plug in to where they can not only do the things that they need to do, but it's also not going to be like this crazy, you're in like calculus 7 class at Harvard or something. You're just never going to understand it. Right.
I can give you some horror stories. In fact, I was just doing that to my mom over the weekend. I'm like, when I taking calculus in college, and I took Calc 5, and there was 5 of us in there, and the teacher's just like, he would be at the board and be like, no, that's not right. And I'm like, how the heck are we supposed to learn this? And there was one other guy who he was the brother of a professional football player, and we became good friends, and we would just be like, the heck with this, we're going out the night before the exam. So but I will say, like, for me, that is a probably my number one concern with anybody showing anybody tech, showing it is not to overwhelm people. And the whole reason I'm into it is the reason you got involved, and everything else is I I see the future where we're controlling our own audiences. We're controlling access, which is essentially email marketing. We're building our own audiences. I can sit there and do a lot of this. I'm not saying don't do any of this other stuff, but eventually, if you want to build this for the long term, you're going to also be building your own audience. Yeah, you're going to run ads, you're going to do this, you're going to post books in here, and you got to get your covers and your book descriptions and the keywords and the category, all that kind of stuff is important. But if you want to build this for the long term, you're going to do what you did, and that's host a summit and start building an audience. It gives you so many um, avenues to take, right? So you could build an audience, and then just if you're a fiction author, you could build an audience and share summits like this one. There's always going to be somebody that's interested in somebody else's book, some learning to write themselves, and it gives you so many avenues. And so for me, the whole idea is like, how do we simplify this? Because you've probably been, and I call it spaghetti sites, right? So you probably got some kind of email marketing software, and then over here you've got some kind of website platform, and over here you got the course platform, and over you got all these different things, and that just makes it ultra complicated. And so really, two themes is we want to always be building our own audience, and we want to simplify the tech. We want to make things as simple for audiences as possible. And the other thing I want to, and I'll show you around in pub funnels just to kind of give you an idea, not really the overwhelm with tech, but just the idea. The other thing that's become my mantra is I've seen, as we've brought on subscribers, and we're still in kind of founderings mode. So we have these kind of short windows where we let people in. We've got one of the most comprehensive onboarding systems available. So we've got one-on-one tech unlimited. We've got chat bots. You and I were talking offline inside the system, just to make sure if the person needs help and is willing to ask for help, we're going to make sure we answer. We do coaching calls every week to make sure everybody's doing the thing. But one concept that I really am going to start stressing is funnels, not sites. Funnels, not websites, right? So you think of a website, I got my website and I need my author bio and all these kind of things. And that's all great and good and flashy. the main thing you want to do is get people to whatever your main goal is. Read your books, buy more books, uh, build relationships with people. A funnel is simply a website that directs the visitor down the path you want them to take. And if you want to think of like a funnel as like when you go to McDonald's, you're like, I'll take a burger. And you're like, do you want to supersize that? Do you want fries with that? Do you want a Coke? That's a funnel. It's like, hey, we're going to take you down this path and we're going to make sure that you get the full meal that you want. If as opposed to someone saying, you want to, I'll have a hamburger. And you're like, okay, that'll be 49 cents or whatever it is now. It used to be 49 cents back in the day. And going away. Or if you've ever gone to a website, tell me if this has happened to you, Philip, because I just like, it used to drive me nuts. I'm like, man, I need to get a piece of paper and create my own little roadmap to this person's website. They got some content I want to learn about. But I don't even, it's like, okay, click on this menu item down, submenu, submenu, submenu. Okay, now we got to back out. Let's go to, I want to go to the next one. Submenu, 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 item 2, get the information I want, screenshot. What do I, it's like, if I go to a site, but if I go to a page, it's like, hey, get book 1 of my series for free. Got their email. Thank you. I just sent it to you. Now you got their email. I knew what I needed to do. And so that's what we're trying to do. Summits, obviously, that's, building audiences on steroids and things like we do webinars and trainings and things. All of this stuff can be done. PubFunnel's got a blog. PubFunnels, you can keep conversations with your readers, people on your list. We'll talk about that. You can put courses in there. You can put bonuses. Like you could put in a course area, you might put some interviews with you about how you wrote the book or something. Hey, they buy the first book on Amazon. Go get my free interview about the behind the scenes of the book. They come, they're on their website. Now, when you get another book to launch or anything else, you've got somebody in your audience, you can communicate with them too. They can reply to the email and say, hey, I got a question for you. Someone buys on Amazon, you don't know who they are, if they'll ever buy again, and they're going to be distracted by 10 million other books. So I don't know, in a roundabout way, that's the kind of the impetus of it. Now, for you, you're one of my like favorite success stories because you're right. We talked, I think it was the fall of whatever year. You weren't ready for it. I sent you, I remember exactly the course of events. I sent you an email afterwards saying, don't worry about it. There's other things we can do later. I didn't know what they were, but at the time we were only selling a done for you product. The next summer I said, I'm creating a course on this. And then I went and sent it to everybody, and you like responded and said, I'm in, like, 30 seconds after the email went out, said, hey, I created this thing. Then 6 months later, you're hosting a summit. Another 6 months later, summit, and now this year you're co-hosting. And by the way, I'll call it the this, what is it, 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yeah.
Right. So the interesting thing about all this is the very first time I was ever even asked to do anything self-publishing related, like nobody knew who I was. I'd written a couple books. Brian Burney comes to me and says, do you want to speak on my summit? I'm like, yeah. Like, oh my God, somebody even knows who I like. I don't even know how I got my email. We were in a couple Facebook groups together, I think, but I was just like, that was like one of the proudest moments when I was starting out. Like, I just got asked to be on a summit. The other thing he did for me too is he made a short 1-sentence comment that probably made me, I would say, $3,000 or $4,000, which right when I was hosting my first summit, so a little bit later after his, I said, hey, what do you think about this price structure? And I think I was going to price it at $47 for the quick action premium pass. He's like, I think you'll be leaving money on the table. So I put it to 67, and we did that first summit. We did $12,126, and I'm like, oh my God, there's like, it would have been 8 if Brian hadn't said that one little word. Don't tell him I said that, because I might owe him some kind of royalty for that information. But so anyway, it's interesting how he got me involved. I ran my summit. Then I decided I'm going to be as good as I can at summits and help people. You come along, and now you two are partnering on a summit.
Yeah, it's a crazy cycle of events if you think about that. Yeah, and Brian, and it's funny because before I knew who Brian was, you told me when I was starting with my first summit, you're like, hey, here's a video by Brian. He's been running really successful summits. You should check it out. He really knows what he's talking about. So I watched it, and then I reached out to him for an interview, and I interviewed him for my summit. And then a year and a half later, we're actually really good friends. I call him, and I say this to his face virtually, so it's not talking behind his back. I call him my favorite little Italian meatball, because he's a little short little thing, and I love him to death. But yeah, it's crazy how now me and him are partnered up, and now it's like now all three of us are in the same event together. After like just a few years ago, nobody knew any of us. Like I didn't know you existed. You know Brian existed. I didn't know either one of you existed. Like it's a really cool thing. But you
And
mentioned a
that's it.
couple.
You know what? If you can help people, by the way, like if I helped you a little bit, cool. Brian helped me a little bit, and you help them build their own audience, they become your best partners because you're nurturing the right type of people. I mean, you and I before we started this recording talking about all the bad types of partners you might get, over the course of a time. So it's a small world, and it's all about audience building, partnership building, audience building, partnership building, and it just grows from there.
Yeah, I think reciprocity is huge, and like Alex Hormozy talks about this all the time. He's a $100 million plus 30 something year old entrepreneur, just had like one of the biggest book launch events probably ever, maybe the biggest virtual one ever. And he talks about reciprocity all the time. He's like, give away as much as you know as much stuff as you can, your best stuff, it doesn't matter, just give it away for free, because you're thinking long term, because you're thinking down the road, I'm building up all these great relationships. And like if we're talking marketing your fiction and like growing your audience, like think about what could you do for the people that are coming into your email list in your world. Like the more you can show reciprocity and be like, I'm giving you something for free that I don't have to give you, but it's here it is, or it's like here's a few things for free, in hopes of building that relationship really early on and building a strong connection to later down the road, long term, those people become your lifelong fans, people that can't wait to open your email, can't wait to read your next book, can't wait to hear from you, um, and stuff like that. And obviously, me being in email marketing and that's what I focus on, like I'm biased. I think email's the best place to do that. And a lot of people agree with me on that. Um, and then, but like you can do that inside things like pub funnels, but like currently, like I use Baylor Lite. It's what I recommend to a lot of people. And a lot of this was before pub funnels came along, but like because it's simple. So like you mentioned something else too, making it as simple as possible across the board. Like even if you're just getting started, or if you're a seasoned pro, simplicity is what scales. Simplicity is going to move you the fastest. Simplicity is going to move you the farthest. Like even if you've established and you could put all these bells and whistles on systems and processes and stuff like that. I'm a firm believer in the simpler you can keep it, the better off you're going to be. Um, and I think especially when it comes to tech, and we're talking selling our fiction books and stuff like that, like it's already complicated enough. Let's not make it worse, right?
Yeah, and it's like some of this. I'll share my screen here in a second, but some of this stuff is overkill for some people. Totally cool, but for almost everybody though, you start buying all these products. If you go back and start adding up the monthly subscriptions and all that kind of stuff, it gets out of hand quick, right? I mean, you've been there, I've been there. We used to, even when back in the day, basically say you got to run this in Kartra. If you want to do our Done for You Summit, you got to run it in Kartra. Well, I had people, you know, clients that are like, I deleted my premium pass in the middle of the summit and, sent an email to Kartra, didn't hear back for 5 days, but sent me an email and I'm like, let's get this fixed. And I go and check and like, yep, you did. I don't know. Like, I don't have any power to get it back for you, but I can help you fix it. We fixed it within an hour of when she first notified me that night. Same time she sent them an email, got a generic email back 5 days later. And I just said, look, you're going to have to recreate it, put the videos back in, create a membership. I'll go into all your stuff and repoint, to the new membership, all the purchase in the product and give people access and do all that stuff. And it just, that kind of woke me up. I'm like, I really need a solution. And I had been looking for about a year at other things. And then when we came out with Pub Funnels, um, we started working on that and then we released it. And we I just want to cover all the bases. I want to have we've got an AI thing coming out as part of it, and I just want it to be like a no-brainer, right? So if it's for the right person, it's a no-brainer. If you're paying more than, if you're getting email and a course subscription and a, Wix or WordPress, all these things, great. And you don't have to dump all of them either. Like, so you might, like you said, you might still send from MailerLite. That's cool. A lot of people like their email thing, but they want to get rid of all this other stuff. And I don't want it to have Zapier connecting all these things. A good thing to get rid of quickly is a lot of these course platforms that are start at like $160 and they charge you 6.5%, on top. So I'll just give you a quick tour and we can chat while I'm doing it. That way, we're inside of Pub Funnels here and it's just a ton of stuff. So I'm not going to overwhelm you with that, but let's just look, for instance, let's just go to summits. So you just saw and you promoted the Bestseller Secret Summit. We've got what we call a summit funnel, and a coming soon page, a registration page. If when they register, they get a 15-minute offer to get this at a the premium pass at a significant discount, which you've got similar here with your bundle. Then you go to thank you. The rest of the summit, they get a premium pass, and then we've got a sessions page, which is like your TV guide. And then day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. We have some expired. Sometimes you'll run an encore, and then the summit's closed, and we got terms, privacy, support, our one pager for recruiting people. I even added some stuff on here, like here's my interview link, so people, because we got calendars in here. So I would say, if I needed somebody to interview like you, I think I probably sent you here, and I click here. You would go to bestsellersecrets.io/interview and you'd book an interview. And that had a thank you page where you could upload your headshot and just all of this. And by the way, for me, the goal was, these done for you summits are a lot of work, right? And they're super expensive. That's why, at the time you're like, you were a year later, you took one of the most courageous moves I've ever seen and quit your job and sold the house and said, I'm going to get in this business. And you could see how that's panned out beautifully. But for me too, from the flip side, is like, that's a lot of work for me and my team to do Dunview summits. And then I've got to, I'm selling this at the time, I don't know what it was at the time, 10 or 12,000 to do it. How about we just create something people can implement? And we've got this summit template right here is built into, I've added a few things and we keep it up to date, but this is built right into Pub Funnels. So you don't even, you don't need to hire done for you. It's all here. Now there's some tech and things, but if you want to run a summit, we've got it built in. If you want to run I'm going to switch over to my Pub Funnels account. If you want to run a webinar, we've got a webinar funnel already built. And what's really cool about this, let's see if this one has it. This is actually one we're going to be running shortly, is I'm playing with this. I don't know if you've seen this yet, Philip, and I don't want to get too technical, but see this here? This is a custom value. So now I can clone this funnel for next week's or next month's webinar, and I just go change this custom value, and that's the date. And watch when I do this. So if I preview that page, you'll see it puts a date in here. And next month, I can use the same, I can clone the template, I'll change the clock, and I will put a new date in this custom value field, which is just a field stored inside of Pub Funnels. And I have that I use those in my emails now. I don't have to change. I clone complete email workflows and it automatically updates the date. If I'll just go to custom values here. And if I can do this, you can learn to do it too, but I'm saying you watching, but here's that custom value. Thursday, September 14th at 2 p.m. Now I would demo that and change it, but this is live and I don't want to screw somebody up who's signing up. But you could see I've got all these webinar fields. These go, so anytime in an email, if I put this inside an email, it shows this. And then I say, okay, the replay is here. and I don't have to go into any emails or change it in all my emails or even on my web pages. I just update this value. And so you could see where I'm going with this maybe is we can actually build, as I'm thinking, one or two generations later of the summit, where you can put your artwork in and so forth, but we've written all the copy for you, and all you got to do is that custom field area and just update summit name and dates and all that stuff, and you don't even have to touch the website. So that's like my dream for people. But you can see we add a lot of author stuff in here too. Like I mentioned this offline to you, but we've got this other product, Webinar Shark, and it's for automated webinars. And so that's built in. Right now, we give it to people. That'll be an extra charge later, but right now, founding members give it to people. If you want to access your Atticus account, you can do it from right inside of PubFunnels, and come and edit a chapter and so forth. We do a pub crawl where it's like weekly coaching to help people do that. So the goal here is, and let's see, automations. I mean, this is what's cool. I mentioned that I clone these, and you can see like some of these webinars. This is the one that's ongoing now. All I have to do is duplicate this one, and then change those values for the next one, and change a couple dates, and I don't even have to recreate anything. So it's kind of like once you get set up, and it's like that with anything, you can just clone and go. So I create one form where somebody's going to opt into an email, and then I just clone it. And we've got the other thing that you're sure you've noticed is we've got folders. You get into ClickFunnels, and I mean ClickFunnels, I don't know if they have folders. Kartra kind of does. This makes it nice and clean. So I can go here and I clone last webinar's form, and all I got to do is clone it. I don't even really need to clone and rename it. And then I've got a new form that I can tag people with. So all pretty cool. The other thing is, if you've ever had a conversation with somebody on your list, you can, you got to go searching through your inbox. Like, what did we say a month ago? I can't even remember. Here, it tracks people. And let's go to the demo one. It's I don't want to show live data necessarily, but it tracks the conversations you've had with any of your users. So I can come back and say, what did I say? Oh, yeah, we talked back on May 22nd about this. Great. So, and then of course we've got a one-on-one unlimited onboarding right now for people to come book, and it's right inside the app. We've got a university and so forth. But if you're trying to do more, if you've got a Wix site and you just want to, it's a bucket list thing that you wrote your book for, then that's great. You're good. If you're going to do email or anything else and really audience building, having the web page, the form, the email autoresponder, the ability to do that, build that audience, that's critical. One other thing I will say is I did, let's see, let me show you this. Then that'll be it. I know I'm talking a lot. I don't even know how long it's been, but I know our total time. Let's see. I did okay. All right. Well, Amazon. Opt-ins. There we go. Okay, let me share the screen here. This is one thing I think everybody should do. And this page here made this book a bestseller with one email. And I call this an Amazon funnel. We've got these built into PubFunnels too. And basically it's a page, and we don't need to see the editing of it, but it's a page out there that's basically says, look, if you go buy this on Amazon and bring back your order number, so go buy it here, you press this button, it takes you to Amazon, right? So I press there, it goes to the author code here. We put some search stuff in for the algorithm, but it takes you here. Go grab it, and then pop back here and give us your order number, your name and email, and we're going to give you this course. Well, we sold like 500 books in a couple days doing this. We were down to like in the 1000s of the Amazon bestseller rank, and everybody needs one of these and that's why you would build an audience. Like, well, my next book, I don't need to go run ads or do anything. If the people that read my first book, I'm just going to say, hey, if like for a fiction author, maybe you're not giving a course, but maybe you're like, hey, here's the hidden chapters of this book, or the stuff that didn't make it to the book, or here's the prequel short story about how this whole story started, some cool bonus or behind the scenes interview with the author, whatever it is. And you're rewarding them for buying your book on Amazon. So you get the sales, you get the rank, you get the bestseller, you also get the email by giving the bonuses. And now you can let them know about your next book. You're building an audience. And if they come in here and they put their name and email and order number in, that they bought from Amazon, you could send them an email a month later and say, hey, would you mind posting a review? And here's the link. And so that's what I try to make it different from our software is, as you mentioned, as powerful as ClickFunnels and Kartra and those things, if not better, much easier to use in my opinion. But we also cater to authors, where it's like, you're not going to go in ClickFunnels and find a Amazon funnel template or a virtual summit template, or it's all very clunky and you got to try to modify something else. Here we're like, look, we've already got a proven summit template. We know it works. We've got a proven webinar template. We know it works. You want to do webinars, Amazon funnel, book funnel, all that kind of stuff. So done. Lost my voice.
There we go. Yeah, I actually like that idea. And I was talking to somebody about this a couple of weeks ago. Like the whole, when somebody buys on Amazon, you don't know who it is, you don't have their contact information, you have no way of getting in hold of them, getting them to hopefully read the next book if you have a series and stuff like that. Because Amazon, you can't rely on Amazon to be the one pushing the people through. Like you hope they go through and stuff like that. But like if you can get that information from people and their email list is what we're talking about here, it's like that is where you hold the power. Like if you want to, and we mentioned this a little bit before, and I think I stated it a little bit, but I'll say it again. Like authoring is a long-term strategy, in my opinion. So like it'd be, yeah, cool if you were the flash, if you were the like unicorn or the catching the lightning in the bottle where your first book just exploded and took off. But like realistically, you're not that person. What you're trying to do is figure out strategies and systems and hopefully simple things that you can be doing right now, getting used to, and then refining your process to make it as simple as possible in hopes that that's something that you can do for a long stretch of time, because then that's where things scale. And it's hard to do that if you don't have an audience to sell to. You can't rely on social media. You're not going to get the same ROI back. You're not, if you don't have multiple books out in a series with good reviews and it looks good and everything's in place, running ads doesn't make sense yet. So like, where do you get people to know that you're out there? Your email list. Well, how do you get those people? Well, that's one way. If they're just traffic's going to an Amazon page, or if you were to drive traffic to, the way I see it was like if you had that page and you just did $5 a day on Facebook ads, you drove it to that page to get people to go to Amazon and come back and get their order number. Like, there's a good way to build your list if you don't know how to do it anywhere else. And there are other interviews and presentations on this summit where we talk about how to do that. But
You can do that with BookBub, by the way. You can point them to, you don't have to point them direct to Amazon. You can point it to a custom link. So I've done this with I've asked BookBub, they're cool. It's like, look, as long as you're not trying to just get the email, it's like, no, I'm trying to get, if they're trying to get them to get a book, they're cool. So I would send BookBub people there. They go, you're not going to get every single one, but you're going to get they click, get the book. It's like, well, I might as well get this free thing while I'm here. Chink, there's the email. And now you're basically getting leads from BookBub, right? Or if you're Facebook in your case, or if if you've got a partner, you're looking for partners, and most partners, by the way, they don't want to, they're not going to send their audience just to an Amazon link, but they will send them to yours, especially maybe you've got an upsell in there, or you sell your next book or something that feels more unique. And like, I'm not going to send my list to somebody's Amazon link. I don't need a commission or anything, but it's more professional for me. Like, I've got this unique opportunity for you. Go to Philip's site, right? I'm not going to just send you to Amazon. And so that you've got the ability to do that. You could sell your next book, same price as Amazon, get full, all the money if you wanted. You could sell your next, whatever it is. You're given the the series or the box set or whatever. That can be on the next page. So you can do reviews. You could just or you mention the new series or anything else. So that's the sky's the limit with that.
Yeah, and the whole game is, that you're playing is trying to build your audience and try to sell more books. And during that process, you're also trying to write more and publish more, so it becomes more lucrative as your catalog grows and as you got, like, maybe you just started out, or maybe you've written a series, you got like 6 or 7 books, so you want to continue that series, but at the same time you want to be selling what you already have out while also getting emails. And like I said, there are other sites you can do that as well, and you can do both. You could run traffic to that page to drive sales and hopefully get some emails in return. And you could also drive traffic to a reader magnet page where you're just getting the email by giving them something for free, which is typically like a free book in your genre that you wrote, or like chapters or a novella or a short story or something like that. That's huge. I mean, you can just build your entire audience and email list just from that alone. And I assume you could do something like that in pub funnels. You could create a page, and maybe I'm wrong, but you could create a page where it's kind of like a promo page or like a newsletter swap page where like people are coming to get something from you for free, but they have to put their email in. So
Mm-hmm.
you're still delivering them the like digital freebie, but you're still getting their email in return. I mean, I assume that's the same
Well,
thing as
that's that page I just showed. That's like that. That goes back to that whole funnels, not sites theme, where it's like, look, most authors really, if you're doing, it feels like, well, I got to have a book page and I got to have my bio and my media kit and all this stuff. So like most authors, the very first page you should create is their freebie page. So even if it's like, raybrehm.com and I'm just starting, the first thing I should do is raybrehm.com should be a landing page. It's like, get this free book. Here's the thing. That's it. And I can add to that later and do all fancy stuff I want to. But if you look at even which I'm currently updating, uh, you know, I always do my own stuff last. I rather help other people do theirs. Is, if you go to raybrehm.com, there's a book. There's a video that maybe of me and an interview and then some accolades or whatever. And it's just, but there's only one purpose. You land on that page, you don't have to think about what am I should do next or which menu should I choose. No, it's just like, hit this button, get this free book, put your email in. And that's what most people should have. And I think it gets all convoluted and you get into some of these kind of website only builders. And it's like, you look at all these fancy things you can do. And it's like, your only thing you should be focused on is building that audience. And like you said, this is a marathon, not a sprint. The other thing about email, by the way, and you know this, you start sending frequent emails, your writing gets better. And I could tell you, like, I don't know a lot of fiction authors that do this, but the ones I read, because I like the kind of the futuristic sci-fi, poli-sci, whatever it is. I don't know niche names, but I know what I like. If those guys wrote emails that kind of said, when I was doing this character, well, for instance, I'll give you an example. Douglas Richards. So he's kind of like the Andy Weir type. I found him. And at the end of his books, he gives the background. He's like, look, here's what's true. Here's stuff that's made up. Like, because he does all these techie things like brain chips and drones and things. And it's like, this part's true. Here's some research I did on this. This part I made up or I fudged a little, that stuff's cool to learn about. It's like, wow, some of the stuff he's talking about is actually real. You could do that pretty simply as as an email follow. Somebody opts in, and even if it's just like a weekly, like, hey, this one part of my book, blah blah blah, this is what it's found, or here's how I do my characters. And to me, if I love the author and I love reading it, I want to know the behind the scenes stuff too. So that's something else you could offer.
Yeah, and that just adds, that's like you said, that's just content for your email. And then you said something really cool, and it's so true, especially if we're talking fiction authors, is which we are, is most of us fiction authors are kind of, for the most part, I don't want to generalize people and put them into a bucket they may not belong, but like most people I come across are kind of introverted. They're a little bit just kind of want to stay in their space. They just want to write. They don't want to do other stuff. They don't want to market. They don't know how to market. It's not comfortable. Writing emails is like the scariest thing in the world. And I only know that because it was for me when I first started. Like I've said this in other talks and stuff like that. Like, as you can see, I'm not Mr. Professional. I have a Minion shirt on that says "Don't bother me, I'm busy." It's typically for my kids, but I just happen to be wearing it right now, and I got a backwards hat on and pink headphones. I used to think, as silly as it sounds, when I was writing an email, I felt like I had to dress up in a suit and tie and fix my hair because I thought I had to be somebody I wasn't. But it wasn't until later on I had a talk with your co-host and friend, and we all know him, Derek Depker. He was like, if you're a fiction writer, your emails, you're just storytelling, man. Like that's it. And the more you do it, it not only will your emails get better and more engaging, so where you're writing for your novels and stuff like that. I was like one of those light bulb moments. I was like, what? How did I not know that? It's so simple. I must be the biggest idiot ever for not figuring that out sooner, right?
Well, it's the same for nonfiction too, right? I mean, the we went, and I'm going to write an email about this because I just, I'm like the show about nothing Seinfeld thing, right? Like we went to Olive Garden last night. The kids love going there. My daughter's a pasta girl, right? And I get in the car afterwards and I said, what was the best thing about that meal? And actually, my son brought it up before I even could finish. The waiter manager. So our waiter was like new. It was the third day or whatever, and he kept coming over to check. But he didn't just come over and check. He was like he'd throw out these dad jokes, which I do all the time. It's like he gave like 5 or 6 jokes, and we asked like about the breadsticks. There was one bitten and a couple left, and we're like, you throw these out, right? Because we kind of felt like the kids wanted to take them. Can we take those? Or and he's like, no, well, we give them to the homeless out back. And he just stares at me, and then he's like, I'm just kidding, and it's like, and but he just kind of he used a humor. He was entertaining, and that made the experience. Everything else, I got one portion of broccoli that wasn't undercooked. I didn't care, whatever. But the whole experience is great because he was entertaining. Nonfiction too, it's entertaining. I just like to, you and I were discussing that hour and a half we spent before this recording was all about stuff that's like happened. And I write emails about that. It's like, here's what this clown did. It was supposed to be a JV partner and then whatever. Here's what somebody replied back to me and it was like, it was kind of crazy. Um, my best, the best response I get to emails is when I just share stories of stuff that happened and how I reacted or like, am I crazy or is this going on? So, um, it's, the storytelling goes to nonfiction as well. Fiction is also, but then people get to know you better. I can guarantee you when you send emails to people, they're going to like your book better when you're sharing stuff and or telling stories or whatever, so forth. So that's why I like the whole thing. For me, it's like Pub Funnels kind of pulled it all together for me. It's like I have a way to help people do that. They can entertain, they can do the email, they can sell courses if they want to, they can have a blog if they want to, they can do all these different things. They don't have to do them all, but they're not trying to piece and become some technical guru to try to piece a bunch of software together. They can do it all in one place. You can set it, Pub Funnels, you can set up very easily. It's like opt in to get my free book. And then it just sends them, you could send them a year full of, once a week emails without lifting a finger once you built it up, if you want to do that. Now you and I like to just kind of think of emails and send them, day before, or write them the day before and send them. But you can, when you have the right software, you can be as hands off or hands on as you want. And the other thing about it, like for summits and the summit funnel and stuff, we kind of showed all the sales and all that. You don't have to be this icky car salesman. We just run the thing. It offers people to buy, but you're not like, hey, buy, buy, buy. I just sit back and emails come in with sales. I'm never selling anything because it's all just on the pages and emails saying, you might want to grab this, bundle while you still can. It's
Yeah,
okay
it's
if
like
they don't, but you don't, a lot of people, I think software and tech is really powerful, especially something like pub funnels, if you don't like that stuff. Maybe you don't want to run a webinar and ask people to purchase at the end. Feels awkward at first, unless you're, in the sales industry. The tech can do all that for you. When even running a webinar, we'll say, hey, we got this thing. When I run a pub funnels webinar, it's great because the people that get it, it's a no-brainer, right? So I don't even have to say it. I kind of just skim through it and be like, hey, if this makes sense to you, you probably think it's a no-brainer. If it doesn't, that's cool too. We'll see, see you next time. Let's get the Q&A. And then I follow up emails and everything else does the selling.
yeah, I think that's the importance of having like systems and processes in place that you build out. Because I think when people, when fiction authors get kind of overwhelmed with tech, one you mentioned it's having all these different pieces that you're all like you have, your favorites tab. So you have everything that is involved in what you need to do that day is 12 different websites, and maybe you can't get rid of them all, or maybe there's some of them are still applicable and stuff like that, which is probably going to be the case always. But like the simpler and more refined you can get the process with as little, the least amount of moving parts as possible, like not only is it going to be easier for you, but I also believe the simpler and frictionless that you can make the customer journey across like book one to book two to book three, or the freebie to get into your email list, or the freebie to get into your email list to grab an extra freebie, or maybe get the actual book. Like just setting those things up properly in the simplest way is going to be way more beneficial, not only in the short term, but in the long term, which is like, I'll say it again, like long term is how you have to think. And I will say this is like, it's subjective to the author. You don't have to be the one with the big audacious like $10,000 a month from book sales, or 6-figure author. Like that doesn't have to be your goal. Like your goal can be whatever it is that your goal is. But I would probably venture to guess whatever your goal is, there's something's going to be involved in there that's tech related. Like because you can't do it, you're doing it online, so something has to be involved. um so it is subjective to the author, but just like regardless of what your goal is, just simple is always better. And for using something that can get people in the door and then moving them along, because I love funnels too. Like, and to be honest, 3 years ago, I didn't know what the heck a funnel was. I heard click funnels. I was like, this makes no sense to me. I know what a
Right.
website is. What's a funnel? Like, but now it's so easy. It's like you can picture a funnel, like, and it's just like get as many people in right here. And as they go down, you're just kind of getting the more and more, you're narrowing down the person that belongs in your world. And if you do that enough times, let's say you end up with 1,000 people on your email list, but it's 1,000 right people, that can make all the difference in the world.
I've got, I just rewrote it. I'm rewriting this. So this came out, but I've pulled it and I'm rewriting Book Profit Secrets, some parts of it. But one of the things I just talked about was funnels, not sites. And I said, and I described it how, you've got how do I got to create my own map for the site. Well, it's just like if you go to a sporting event or a rock concert or a play or a musical, right? They've got ushers at every spot. And you don't have to, you show them your tickets and they're like, seats 3A and B, follow me. And I'm going to take you right down here. Here's your seats. You don't have to think. It's like, I just want to know how to get to where I'm supposed to go. That's what a funnel is. Instead of somebody coming to your site and you just, I basically say it in the book, I'm like, and vomiting a bunch of information all over the place at them. You're like, hey, you're here. Here's where you should go. It's this button here. Get on the email list, and then you go from there. And there's a lot of stuff you can do on the thank you page of that. You can even sell, like sell your next book or pre-sell it from your site, and make 10 times the amount of you will on your royalties, right? So that's how I think of that as like, let's make it, you're not just making it easier for you to get people on your list, you're making it easier for the people that visiting you, like, hey, I'm here, what should I do? You ever show up at a house or a party and you're like, the doors open, you walk in, you're like, I'm here, anybody here? What do I do? Or somebody's like, I saved you a seat, come for me, come right over here and sit down. and the usher takes you to a seat. That's all a funnel is let's guide the people to the path we want them to take. Don't make them guess because they're gone, especially nowadays with the attention span. So
Yeah, you don't want to make them like if you're wanting somebody on your list or to buy your book, you wouldn't put that on the other side of shark infested waters. Cut the person so they're bleeding and then toss them into the water and tell them that's where you have to go to get my stuff. Like you want it to be like you're almost every time somebody wants your thing, you're knocking on their door and they open it, you're like, here it is. And then like
yeah,
it's that simple. Like if you can make it that simple, like you mentioned, like this was a cool point. Like it shouldn't just be easy and as frictionless as possible for you, but think about your customer. And if you're a fiction author and let's say you write in a romance genre, chances are you write in that genre because that's the genre you like to read in. So if you're your ideal reader, if that's the case, like think how would you like your process to go if you're trying to get into this person's world, or how would you like the process to be if that's the book you want, or that's the reader magnet, or like I would love to be on that person's email list and just learn more about them. Like what process would that be that's so easy that you don't even have to think about it? Because like you said, the second they have to think like what do I do next, you've lost them, and then it's no getting them back.
I mean, to the people I read their emails every day, Derek Tepker, Ben Settle, right? If you go to bensettle.com, there's not a bunch of like, hey, pull down. It's like, hey, if you want to, he gives you two options actually. It's like, you want a free copy of my $97 newsletter and get on my email list, click here. If you don't want to, here's an archive of some old stuff. So not old stuff, but here's an archive of some other blog posts and thing. It's like one or the other. And that's okay. Either choice you make, it's okay. But I don't make somebody decide like say come to your site and say what should I do. And so that's what we're trying to do. Same with this summit. It's not like you got like, hey, here's all these options. That's why I kind of like I stopped doing the whole, hey, there's an opt-in page to register and there's an opt-in page for the playbook or whatever else. Like, I don't want two sites, two places, and people are like, did I miss out something if I register here or there? It's like, no, come here. Every button on the page just is the same thing. It's register. And you're not convinced yet? Read a little more. You want to register? Yeah, read a little more. Want to register? Great. But there's only one choice when you come to the Summit landing page. It's to register or not. And great. For me, that's great too. If I come, it's like sometimes I don't. Most of the time I do. But there's not like it's not I'm not going to not do something because there's too many options. If I only have one choice. I don't want to have to think about, well, I could do this route or this route or this route or this route. Then people just don't make the decision.
Yeah, you got to make it as easy as possible. Yeah, I 100% agree, especially like when we're talking tech. If it's the easiest way, if it's easy for the author to get set up and started, then the chances are the process and the things they're going to be building and setting up is also going to be simple, and it just bleeds over into the customer or the potential reader or fan that comes in down the road, wherever that may be. Because a lot of these things you're setting up and creating, you just do it once, you don't have to worry about it again unless you're making updates. Like you said, you're going back and rewriting some chapters in a book or something. Like maybe you create an I updated this page, or maybe something changed in your life and you need to update something. Like other than that, we're talking you build it once, you set it up, you don't have to worry about it again. And
And
that's a dream scenario.
that's why what's interesting for us is one, we building all these templates for authors. Like it's already built. There's By the way, there's certain people we can't help that don't want to, they want to buy something but not do any work. It's like you've got to at least know what you want to put, your name, your bio, or a quick one-liner, or what's your book, or whatever it is for that first landing page. But we want to make that, we know if we can give you unlimited onboarding and a help bot inside, we got a 24/7 help team inside the software with the chat widget. You can chat with a live person anytime, any of the day. But if we can help people get set up, they're going to be around for a long time. And that's our goal. So we really kind of go over where we got all this one-on-one help, we've got coaching, and then we've got pre-built templates, so that the whole goal for all of this is you as the author focus on your expertise. whether it's writing fiction, your next story, or maybe an email to your audience, and you're building an audience, or you're going to create this little extra mini book that you can give as a bonus to people, and you could put that inside your fiction books that are on Amazon. People click on it and they can come and get in your audience. If we can make that easy, that's the goal. So keep it simple.
Yeah, what is it? KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
The Office is one of my favorite shows, so that's a line. I think it's from something else, but that's a line from The Office, and it's Dwight Schrute. Keep it simple, stupid. It's true, and it hurts my feelings every single time. But yeah, it's literally. I think the title of this interview could be just keep it simple or simple scales. Like just don't make it overcomplicated. And when you have the right tech and stuff like that, it makes a huge difference for that as well. Okay, so I don't think I have any questions. Full disclosure, I am absolutely gassed from our
Yeah.
pre-interview interview, and I'm starving.
Yep.
I'm
Yep.
so
No,
hungry.
I don't even know how long we've just gone, but
Yeah, I don't
it's
either.
plenty of
But
time.
yeah, I think we
It's,
covered enough.
keep it simple. One thing I'll say, I'll just end with this on my end, is we talked about it beforehand, but my one piece of advice for everybody is what I call be the bank. Build your own audience. You don't ever be dependent on any of these social media platforms, including Amazon included. If you've got your own, if everything comes down, they decide to shut your Amazon account off and social media. If you've got an email list and you've written another book, just send it to them. And there's some simple math you can do too, by the way. It's like if your book's whatever, $2.99 and you're getting whatever it is, well, let's just say it's the 30 cents royalty. Let's say it's $1, right? You can make 3 times as much just by selling it on your site, because you're going to get the 30 cents royalty, and you got the email address, and you can sell them the next book. You can probably sell it for more. You can give a deluxe edition. There's all kinds of stuff you can do if you build your own audience. And that's what every author, fiction, nonfiction, should be doing. And it's not an overnight thing. And it's not, it's just start now, make the decision, start building your audience.
Yeah, I like that. Be the bank on your audience, because I'm the same way. I'm not a social media guy. I don't believe in social media not only not being your main platform, but it's way more dangerous if it's your only platform,
Yeah.
because Zuckerberg could wake up and have a bad day and shut you down. He's not the one really doing it, but like Facebook, you don't want Facebook controlling your stuff. You don't want TikTok controlling your stuff, or Instagram. Like if you own your audience, you get to say what you want, when you want, how you want. You get to talk about what you want. Like it's you own it, and it's like, and then the sky's the limit. But you're right, it's not an overnight process. It takes time. It takes action now that you can repeat every day and week and month and year. Like think long term, as we've talked about a lot. So yeah, I like that a lot. So yeah, so that's it for me. So do you I'm pretty sure we talked about this a little bit before we recorded, was a freebie and something for people who decide to for all the crazy people out there who want to jump in on the bundle. I think you've got something for them as well.
Yeah. So I've got the Amazon bestseller formula. So if you want to know how to do that, we've done that we've made a couple hundred authors bestsellers, use the same process all the time. It's just something worth learning, whether you have somebody else, you're doing your own stuff. Many people on here may already know how to do that. There's always something you can pick up from that. And then we've got a virtual summits for authors masterclass that if you pick up the bundle, you can do that as well. We give that free to anybody gets in the bundle. So that if you think a virtual summit for some what we talked about for you, you can get that inside the FMA bundle.
Yeah, so we'll have the Amazon bestseller launch will be the freebie, and this will be under this video here, along with the link to Pub Funnels as well. If you want to go check out Pub Funnels, that'll
Yep.
be theirs too. And then for people who buy the bundle and stuff, not just you'll get all the stuff in the bundle that you've seen if you've seen the page, but also resources and special deals and discounts and stuff like this from our speakers who are generous enough to hand those things out. You'll get the virtual summit masterclass or whatever. So that'll be in there,
Virtual
which
summits
is
for authors. Yep. Yep.
yeah,
And
which
by the
will be
way,
awesome.
I'll just say that there's virtual summits, and this, it's one of the best ways to build an audience, even if you're starting out, even if nobody knows you, because the host is not expected to have the huge audience. The speakers bring the audience. And so that's why it's a beautiful thing. We're not going to get into all that, but check it. You know, if you get the bundle, that's in there, and you take that class, you're going to feel confident about hosting your own virtual summit, and that's something you may not do today or this year, but everybody here has the skill set to do that. So
Yeah, especially if I could do it. That's
yeah,
so
if
true.
Philip and I can do it, then anybody
Sky's
can
the
do it.
limit for you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right. All right, Mr. Ray. I appreciate
All
your
right.
time.
Thanks, everybody.
The interview and the pre-recorded. So I hope y'all learned something, whether you're watching, listening, or if you're the crazy person that reads the transcripts, which I can't imagine that's many people. Hopefully you got something out of that. Go check out everything Ray's given us, which is awesome. And then, yeah, we'll see everybody in the next one. Thank you.